Maybe you've tried everything, praying in the silence, reading the books, repeating the affirmations until your throat dried out. Maybe you've begged for a sign, watched the clock for synchronicities, tried to be high vibe, even when your heart felt like it was breaking in slow motion. You've tried to believe, to trust, to surrender. But there's this ache, this quiet question underneath it all. Why hasn't it worked yet? Why, if I'm doing all the right things, does it still feel like I'm alone? This is where we begin. Not in a temple, not in a textbook, but in the ache. Because that ache, that yearning to find God, to feel held by something greater, to finally experience peace instead of trying to manifest it, is the doorway. It's not a flaw in your frequency. It's the frequency itself. And here's the radical, heart-shaking truth. You don't find God through perfection. You find God through coherence, through resonance, through becoming the quiet signal that reality can reflect without distortion. Let's talk about distortion. Imagine a pond, still, reflective. Now throw 1,000 stones of fear, of doubt, of trying too hard. The reflection blurs. You can't see what's already there because the surface is chaotic. That's what control does. That's what striving creates. Quantum mechanics doesn't reward effort. It responds to state. Observer and observed collapse into one field, and the field responds not to what you say, but to what you are. You manifest not from the asking, but from the atmosphere of your being. Not from the plea, but from the presence. So when we speak of God in quantum terms, we are not reducing the divine, we are returning to it. The God you're searching for is not an external force to be appeased. It is the infinite field that becomes form through your observation, your emotion, your embodiment. It's not out there, it's entangled with you, and like any wave, it collapses into form when the observer meets it with coherence, with unity between thought, heart, and nervous system, with alignment, not anxiety. Do you feel it now? The shift in tone, the softening. That's coherence. It doesn't scream, it doesn't hustle, it hums. And in that hum, reality listens. Not with ears, but with energy. And this is where most of us get caught. We ask for miracles with our words, but broadcast fear with our nervous systems. We want alignment, but we act from urgency. We seek God, but we grip life too tightly to receive. Control is not spiritual discipline. It's spiritual interference. It fragments your signal, like trying to tune a radio while screaming into the speaker. The message never comes through clearly. But when you breathe, when you soften your grip even just a little, the frequency stabilizes. You become still enough to perceive what's already surrounding you. Love, order, intelligence, the divine, not as concept, but as current. And maybe this is what's been missing. Not more techniques, not more affirmations, but an internal attunement to the truth already coded inside you. You are not separate. You've never been. You are the collapsing wave and the one who watches. The field and the form, the question and the answer. And God, in the language of quantum, is the coherence that holds it all together. So if you're still searching, still trying, still waiting for proof that you're not alone, maybe you've been looking with your eyes but not your frequency. Maybe the signal's been there all along, waiting not to be found but matched. There's a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when you stop pushing, not because you've given up, but because something deeper in you remembers, not in your mind, in your body. A subtle recognition that your chasing was only necessary until you could feel what had always been humming beneath the surface. This is the sacred reversal. The moment you stop trying to reach God and allow yourself to be reached. Your nervous system knows this moment. It knows the difference between force and flow, between pressure and presence. When you're in survival, your body becomes a fortress, tight, defensive, on edge. Even your prayers are braced. But when you begin to regulate, not with perfection but with permission, your frequency changes, your signal clears, and God doesn't need a translator, only resonance. Think of a tuning fork. One fork begins to vibrate, and without touching, another fork nearby starts to vibrate at the same frequency. This is coherence. This is how the quantum field responds to you, not through effort, through equivalence. You don't manifest what you demand, you magnetize what you embody. So the real question becomes, what am I vibrating into the field right now? Most people never stop to ask. They try to make life happen. They want divine support, but they operate from fear of what will happen if they let go. That grip, that silent panic, it doesn't repel blessings because it's bad. It repels them because it's incoherent. It tells the field, I'm not safe. And the field, like any intelligent system, mirrors your internal state. This is the observer effect in action. The energy with which you observe your life shapes how it materializes. If you look at your bank account with fear, the field collapses around lack. If you approach your dreams with pressure, the timeline tightens, contracts, and becomes rigid. But if you can bring breath, space, openness, suddenly the field becomes fluid. Possibility returns. And what felt impossible, unreachable, becomes probable, then inevitable. So when you say you want to find God, what you might really mean is, I want to feel safe enough to receive. I want to trust enough to open. I want to let life be a dialogue instead of a demand. I want to remember that I'm not here to perform for the divine, but to participate in it. And that shift, from performer to participant, is the bridge. Have you ever stood in the sunlight and felt even for a second like it was for you? That warmth, that soft unfolding, that's the vibrational signature of coherence. That's God, not in theory, but in temperature, tangible, real, and that's what we return to, not by effort, but by allowing. The quantum field does not speak English. It speaks frequency, and God, as the infinite intelligence behind that field, listens through vibration. Which means your healing, your alignment, your breakthrough, it doesn't arrive because you say the right thing. It arrives when your entire being becomes the answer to your own prayer. Not more doing, more remembering, not more manifesting, more matching. You've already been heard, you've already been chosen. The question is, can you regulate your nervous system long enough to receive what's already been set in motion? Let that be the practice now. Not fixing, not forcing, but finding the quiet signal of coherence in your own body, and from there letting life speak back. Because it will. It always does. It speaks in whispers first. A soft gut feeling, a sudden moment of stillness in the chaos, a synchronicity that feels too precise to be random. These are not accidents, they are echoes of your alignment speaking through the fabric of reality. Because when you begin to resonate with the field, when your body, your emotions, your intentions fall into coherence, life reflects you with breathtaking precision. And yet, most of us miss it. Not because the signs aren't there, but because we're too busy trying to control their form. We demand the sign be a number, a message, a person, but frequency doesn't speak in specifics. It speaks in sensations, in openings, in timing that feels like exhale after a long, clenched breath. If you're looking only with your eyes, you'll miss the miracle, but if you feel for the resonance, it will take your breath away. This is why surrender is not passive. It's precise. It's an active state of alignment, where you become so clear in your frequency that you no longer distort the field with doubt. You hold the vibration of already having, already being, already knowing, and the field, like a mirror with no delay, adjusts accordingly. Imagine this. You walk into a room filled with instruments. If you strike one piano key, others tuned to the same note begin to vibrate. You don't need to touch them all, just one true tone. That's what embodiment is. That's what finding God through quantum mechanics truly means. You become the frequency of wholeness, and wholeness has no choice but to echo back. This is where healing accelerates, where manifestations collapse timelines, where you stop waiting and start receiving. Not because you've convinced life to give it to you, but because you've become a match. The observer effect confirms this. When you observe from fear, the wave collapses into chaos. But when you observe from wholeness, the wave becomes form in service of your coherence. So the deepest spiritual work is not about begging or bargaining. It's about stabilizing your state, regulating the body, attuning the heart, clarifying the intention. You are the instrument, the tuning fork, the bridge between potential and form. And God is not watching from a distance. God is the field responding moment by moment to the music you play. Have you noticed how sometimes when you stop needing something, it arrives effortlessly? That's not coincidence, that's coherence. The moment you release the tight grip of the frequency of fear and drop into presence, you become available to timelines that couldn't reach you before, not because they didn't exist, but because they couldn't resonate with your previous state. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you signal. So if you've been signaling from tension, from urgency, from lack, forgive yourself. You were doing what you knew, but now you know something deeper. You know that your safety is the seed, that your presence is the permission, that your embodiment is the prayer. You are not a beggar at the feet of the universe. You are a co-creator in the dance of form and frequency. You are not separate from God. You are the current through which the divine moves. The more you allow that truth to settle not just in your mind, but in your breath, your gut, your chest, the more life begins to organize around your coherence, your peace, your knowing. Let this be your new signal. I am safe to receive. I am safe to see clearly. I am safe to stop trying and start trusting what's already reaching for me. And in that trust, something astonishing happens. Reality begins to bend. Not because you've manipulated it, but because you've met it, fully, without interference, without agenda. You become the open frequency through which quantum possibility becomes personal reality. Not a theory, not a concept, but a living, breathing experience of connection so precise, so intimate. It feels like the whole universe has been watching you this whole time, waiting for this moment of surrender. But this isn't the surrender of giving up. It's the surrender of becoming, of dissolving the layers of false effort and revealing what's always been whole underneath, the part of you that's never been separate from the field, the part that doesn't need to get closer to God because it is God in expression, a unique frequency in the infinite spectrum of Source. The moment you realize this, everything begins to rearrange, not outside first, inside. Your nervous system softens, your breath deepens, the knot in your stomach untangles without explanation, and suddenly, reality doesn't feel like something you need to fight or fix. It feels like something you're finally in rhythm with. Think about water. The way it flows toward gravity without resistance, that's coherence. That's what your life becomes when your inner world stops contradicting your outer desires. You stop trying to force the river, and instead, you become the current. Which is why healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering you were never broken to begin with. You were simply resonating with frequencies that weren't yours. Frequencies of urgency, fear, scarcity, inherited, absorbed, repeated, until they felt like identity. But identity is not fixed. It's fluid, molded by coherence, shaped by resonance. And every time you choose presence over panic, embodiment over escape, softness over struggle, you shift timelines, you collapse old patterns, you become a new observer, and the field reorganizes around that. This is not magic, it's mechanics. Elegant divine mechanics. The architecture of the unseen responding to the architecture of your nervous system, the frequency of your emotion, the vibration of your being. So when we speak of finding God through quantum mechanics, what we're really describing is a homecoming, not to a belief but to a felt reality, where divinity isn't an idea, it's a lived frequency, one you don't reach through striving, but through stillness. And stillness does not mean silence, it means undistorted, clear, pure, like a signal that cuts through the noise because it carries truth. And truth doesn't need to shout. It hums, it resonates, it remembers. You are that remembering. You are that signal. You're not here to chase alignment. You are here to transmit it, not by doing more, by being truer. So ask yourself now, not what should I do, but what do I already know in my body, if I'm honest? The answer isn't always easy. Sometimes it requires release. Letting go of who you thought you had to be in order to feel worthy. But in that release, you don't lose yourself. You find your real frequency, the one that God, the quantum field, reality itself, has been waiting to match. You can feel it now, can't you? That quiet pull inward, that gentle unraveling of the need to push. This is the sacred shift, the moment your energy turns from seeking to remembering, from managing reality to magnetizing it. You start to realize, maybe for the first time, that the power wasn't in the plan, it was in the presence, the way you breathe when you trust, the way you stand when you know you're supported, the way your body feels when it's not bracing against life, but dancing with it. Because embodiment is not a posture, it's a transmission, a language the universe fluently speaks. And the more you regulate your inner world, not by force but by meeting yourself with compassion, the more clearly you speak the language of reality. Emotion becomes instruction, breath becomes alignment, stillness becomes signal, and in that stillness, you meet the field. It doesn't matter what you call it. God, the universe, source, the divine matrix. What matters is that you feel it. That sacred intelligence behind the scenes, always organizing, always listening, not to your words but to your frequency. And frequency is not fabricated through affirmation. It's embodied through congruence, through becoming internally coherent. Thought, heart, body, all attuned to the same truth. So what does it feel like when you're in that coherence? It feels like relief, like you don't have to carry the timeline anymore, like you can stop micromanaging the how. It feels like grace, like walking into a room and realizing everything you needed is already waiting, not because you begged, but because you became the version of you who naturally receives it. And yet, we forget, daily. We slip into the old scripts, the urgency, the grip, the proving. That's okay. It's not failure. It's feedback, a nudge to return to breath, to safety, to the knowing that God is not withholding. The field is not ignoring. The delay is not punishment. It's preparation. It's resonance calibrating. It's life asking, can you hold the frequency of what you asked for without collapsing under the old version of you? This is the real test, not whether you can want big things, but whether you can become the frequency that can hold them. And holding doesn't mean effort. It means stability. It means becoming so familiar with the feeling of being supported that your body stops preparing for disappointment, that your nervous system stops scanning for threat, that your soul stops dimming to survive. This is what it means to be in communion with God, not on your knees in desperation, though sometimes we start there, but standing in full presence, heart open, frequency steady, knowing that the field is always responding, that miracles aren't rare. They're just coherent responses to a coherent state. And when you live like this, not just believe it, but embody it, you start to witness the unfolding. The call comes, the message arrives. The unexpected opportunity slips into your life like it always belonged. And it did. It just couldn't reach the version of you who was bracing instead of breathing. So, breathe now. Not to calm down, but to tune in, to come back into the rhythm that creates worlds. The rhythm that doesn't rush, that doesn't chase, that doesn't grasp. The rhythm that knows God is not separate. God is the field, and the field responds to me. And when that truth finally lands, not just in your mind, but in your cells, something irreversibly shifts. You stop looking for signs because you realize you are the sign. You stop waiting for proof because you understand. You are the proof. You are the bridge between potential and form, the translator between spirit and substance, not through effort, but through embodiment. And embodiment doesn't mean perfection. It means honesty, congruence, coherence. It means your frequency is no longer fractured by fear. You've probably felt those fractures before, the quiet dissonance of saying, I trust, while your body tightens in doubt, the energetic contradiction of, I'm aligned, while your thoughts race to manage what hasn't happened yet. That's not alignment, that's performance, and the field doesn't respond to performance, it responds to truth. So if the truth in this moment is that you're still learning to trust, beautiful, that's coherent. If the truth is that you're afraid but willing to open anyway, powerful. That's presence, that's the energy that bends reality. Not because it's high vibe, but because it's honest. Because it signals, I'm not pretending anymore. I'm meeting life as I am. And in that meeting you create resonance. Resonance is the real miracle. It collapses time. It shortens the distance between intention and manifestation. Because the field doesn't need time to respond. It needs clarity. It needs steadiness. It needs you fully here. And when you arrive, and not just physically but vibrationally, everything starts to respond. The people, the opportunities, the moments of divine timing that feel almost cinematic, not because you manipulated reality, but because you met it. Because you finally let yourself become the version of you who doesn't question whether you're worthy of receiving. You just receive naturally, as a function of coherence. And here's where it gets even more beautiful. You don't need to be fully healed to access this. You don't need to fix all your patterns first. You just need to come into resonance with your next truth, the next frequency, the next version of self that doesn't shrink to survive, that doesn't broadcast fear to feel in control, that doesn't collapse into urgency every time life pauses. Because sometimes that pause is sacred. It's not a void, it's a recalibration. The field waiting for your frequency to stabilize enough to deliver what's already on its way. So the next time it feels like nothing is happening, ask, what is real in me right now? Can I stay with it without needing to escape it? Can I bring coherence even here? That's the access point, that's the prayer. Not words, but vibration. Not force, but frequency. And when you live from this place, when your nervous system becomes the temple and your breath the altar, God is not something you reach. God becomes the response, not with control, with coherence, not by managing, by magnetizing, not from effort, from essence. And in that essence, there's no separation, no need to earn what already belongs to you, just the unfolding, just the becoming, just the remembering. I am already home. And maybe that's what all the seeking has really been about. Not to find something out there, but to return to something in here, to come home, not to a destination, but to a state where your being is no longer at war with your becoming, where your body is no longer resisting the very peace it longs for, where the field no longer feels foreign because you've remembered it was always reflecting you. This is the deepest surrender, not to circumstances, but to truth. To finally accept that the more you try to control life, the more you interfere with the very magic you're praying for. Because control is a trauma response, an energetic flinch, a protective pattern saying, I don't trust the field to meet me, so I'll micromanage my timeline instead. But God does not enter through micromanagement. God enters through receptivity, and receptivity requires safety, which is why your nervous system is the gate, not your vision board, not your affirmations. Your body. If your body is signaling fear, no matter how much you say, I trust, the field hears your incoherence, not as punishment, but as data. It's listening, it's attuning, it's responding perfectly to the vibration you are broadcasting. So how do you shift the broadcast? You slow down, you breathe, you stop rushing your healing and start feeling it. You give your body permission to release the grip on how, the grip on when, the grip on who you need to be in order to be worthy. You soften into the version of you who doesn't need to perform for God, but can simply be with God, and moment by moment, through the breath, through the heart, through the frequency of enoughness. And from this place, everything changes. Not just because life becomes easier, but because you stop making ease suspicious. You stop bracing for disappointment. You stop demanding evidence that you're safe, and you start generating the frequency of safety from within. And that, more than any technique, is the catalyst. Because remember, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what your nervous system says is safe to receive. So if you've been blocked, stuck, circling the same patterns, it's not your desire that's the problem. It's the underlying broadcast of unsafety, of separation, of misalignment between the voice in your head and the signal in your body. And this is where God becomes personal, not in belief, but in biology. In the way your body begins to reorganize itself when you remember you're not alone. In the way your cells exhale when you stop striving and start allowing. In the way your reality reshapes itself, not because you forced it, but because you finally became available to what's always been yours. Let this land. You are not becoming worthy. You are becoming willing. Willing to receive, willing to release, willing to stop chasing and start transmitting. Because God is not waiting for you to get it right. God is waiting for you to get real, to come into coherence with the version of you who no longer doubts your divine belonging. And when that version takes the lead, time collapses, struggle softens, doors open, and life begins to look a lot more like grace. Grace, not as a concept, but as a sensation, the kind that arrives when you're no longer proving, no longer posturing, just being. And in that being, something sacred begins to occur. You start to feel it in your bones. The timelines are not coming, they're already here, hovering like signals around you, waiting for one thing, your coherence. Your choice to live in alignment with the version of reality you say you desire. Not someday, now. Because the quantum field doesn't operate in linear time, it responds to vibrational readiness, and readiness isn't about having it all figured out. Readiness is presence. It's the steadiness of, I'm here, I'm open, I'm listening. That's when the field responds. That's when God speaks through timing so precise it feels poetic. That's when answers arrive, not with fanfare but with certainty. You'll know them by the way your body softens, the way your shoulders drop, the way your heart recognizes something your mind didn't even know it was waiting for. Because God doesn't just answer prayers, God meets you at the frequency of your own becoming, not in the striving, but in the surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It's energetic mastery. It's the deep, regulated choice to no longer push against the flow of what wants to arrive. It's the embodied understanding that the version of you who is bracing cannot receive what the version of you who is breathing was born to hold. So you breathe, you ground, you remember, not because it guarantees instant results, but because it is the result. That nervous system stability, that energetic clarity, that magnetic coherence, that is the breakthrough. Everything else just mirrors it. And as you hold that signal longer, as you live inside it more consistently, the field stabilizes around you. You stop reacting to the noise and start responding to the rhythm beneath it, the rhythm of your true self, the version of you that doesn't hustle for miracles. You embody them, not by becoming more, but by remembering you've never been less. This is what it means to find God through quantum mechanics. Not to figure out the science, but to feel the science, to understand on a visceral cellular level that you are not separate from creation. You are the creation tuning itself into alignment with its source. So let this be your new spiritual practice: presence over pressure, coherence over control, essence over effort. Let your body become the sanctuary. Let your breath become the instrument. Let your life become the echo of your internal alignment. Because the moment you stop trying to reach God and begin resonating with God, you'll realize God was never missing. You were just vibrating too far from your own truth to feel the nearness. Now you're home, not because you arrived, but because you finally remembered. You were never lost.